Have you ever felt like your adult children are slipping away? Maybe your texts go unanswered for days, or your once lively phone calls now feel rushed and obligatory. Holidays that used to be filled with warmth and laughter have become awkward or even non-existent. If you found yourself lying awake at night wondering, what changed? You're not alone, and the answer may be more subtle than you think. Often, it's not a single event or major disagreement that causes distance between aging parents and their adult children. More commonly, it's the accumulation of tiny emotional bruises, words spoken with good intentions, but received as judgment, guilt, or criticism. These small moments, repeated over time, can quietly drive a wedge between loved ones, leaving parents feeling hurt and confused, and children feeling defensive and emotionally drained. As a family communication coach with over 2 decades of experience, I've seen this dynamic play out in hundreds of households. Most older parents are completely unaware that the way they speak is pushing their children away. They believe they're showing love, concern, or wisdom, but the message received is often quite different. That's why today's conversation is so important. I want to share with you 5 common phrases that may be harming your connection with your adult children, without you even realizing it. These aren't angry outbursts or obvious insults. In fact, they often come from a place of love, nostalgia, or deep longing for closeness. But when delivered at the wrong time, or without sensitivity to how they're received, they can create lasting emotional damage. Let me be clear, this isn't about blame. It's about awareness and growth. Just as your children had to learn how to communicate with you as they matured, there comes a time when parents, too, must adapt to new relational dynamics. What worked when your children were small, offering advice, setting expectations, or speaking from authority, doesn't always work now that they're adults with families, careers, and identities of their own. Healthy relationships evolve, and so must the way we express care, concern, and connection. The good news? Once you recognize these patterns, you can begin to change them. I've seen families who barely spoke for years find their way back to each other, not through grand gestures, but through small shifts in everyday communication. And it all starts with listening, reflecting, and making different choices with your words. In the next section, we'll break down 5 specific phrases that may be creating silent rifts in your family, and I'll show you exactly what to say instead. These changes may seem small, but their impact can be profound. If you're ready to rebuild trust, deepen connection, and bring joy back into your family interactions, let's begin. 5 common phrases that may be harming your relationship with your adult children, and what to say instead. Have you ever noticed that your adult children seem more distant than they used to be? Perhaps they used to call every week, but now those calls are becoming few and far between. Or maybe they decline invitations more often than they accept them, and when they do visit, something feels off, strained, or emotionally guarded. It's natural to feel hurt or confused, especially if you've always prided yourself on being a loving, supportive parent. What if I told you that the growing distance might not be about what you've done, but rather about what you've said, without even realizing it? Communication between generations can be tricky. What feels like a simple expression of love, concern, or frustration to you might land very differently with your adult children. In fact, some of the most well-meaning phrases that parents say regularly can be interpreted as guilt-tripping, dismissive, manipulative, or emotionally overwhelming. And when these phrases are repeated over time, they can gradually erode the foundation of trust and affection that holds family relationships together. The goal here is not to shame or criticize. Instead, it's to shine a light on common communication patterns that might be doing more harm than good, and to offer healthier, more effective ways to express your thoughts and emotions. Let's explore 5 of the most damaging phrases parents often use with their adult children, why they're so hurtful, and what you can say instead to strengthen, rather than strain, your family bond. Toxic phrase 1. After everything I've done for you. One of the most emotionally charged phrases a parent can say to their adult child is, after everything I've done for you. While it may stem from a deep well of love, sacrifice, and frustration, this sentence often lands as a guilt trip. Parents who use this phrase are usually feeling unappreciated, neglected, or disappointed by their child's behavior, whether it's in frequent communication, a lack of visits, or decisions the parent disagrees with. In their eyes, this statement is a justified reminder of years of devotion, late nights, hard work, financial strain, and unconditional love. But for the adult child on the receiving end, the impact is often very different. Instead of feeling gratitude, they feel accused, pressured, and emotionally manipulated. The phrase implies a transactional view of parenting, as if the child is in perpetual debt and must now repay it with obedience or constant availability. This can create a heavy emotional burden and drive them to avoid further interaction in order to protect their autonomy. The reality is that most parents give to their children out of love, not with the expectation of repayment, but because nurturing is part of the parental role. When that giving is later brought up as leverage, it changes the dynamic. It suggests that the love and care provided were not entirely unconditional after all. Over time, repeated use of this phrase can lead to resentment, emotional distance, and even estrangement. Instead of strengthening the bond, it weakens it. But there is a better way. Rather than focusing on the past and what has been given, parents can express their feelings in the present and make space for connection. For example, saying, "I miss spending time with you, and I'd love to see you more often. Is there a time that works for you?" Acknowledges the emotional need without laying blame or invoking guilt. This approach invites rather than demands, encourages rather than coerces. It communicates vulnerability, which is often received with far more warmth and compassion than guilt. Ultimately, the most powerful way to honor the love and sacrifices made for a child is to nurture an adult relationship built on mutual respect, open communication, and emotional safety. Words, when chosen carefully, can heal old wounds and open the door to deeper, more authentic connection. Toxic phrase 2. Your spouse is turning you against me. Few phrases cut deeper into a parent-child relationship than, "Your spouse is turning you against me." At first glance, it may sound like a concerned parent's observation, but beneath the surface lies an accusation that threatens the very foundation of family connection. This statement not only insults the character of the child's partner, but also questions the child's ability to make independent, thoughtful decisions. It places them in an impossible emotional tug-of-war, forcing them to choose between loyalty to their parent and loyalty to their spouse, a no-win situation that often results in strained or severed ties. Adult children, especially those in committed relationships, naturally prioritize their partners as part of building their own lives, suggesting that their decisions are not truly their own, but the result of manipulation, feels like a denial of their adulthood and autonomy. Moreover, this phrase damages more than just the parent-child bond. It can create serious tension within the child's marriage. When a parent repeatedly implies that their child is being influenced or stolen by a spouse, it fosters distrust, anger, and defensiveness. The partner being blamed may begin to feel unwelcome, unfairly judged, or even resented, which can cause the child to withdraw further to protect their relationship. In many cases, this pattern leads to fewer phone calls, canceled visits, or long silences. It is not always out of malice. It's often a defense mechanism against the emotional stress of being in the middle. Instead of casting blame, parents should work to support the new family unit their child is building. A more constructive alternative might be, "I value both of you and want to stay connected. Is there a way we can spend more time together that works for everyone?" This approach recognizes the importance of the partner while expressing a genuine desire for inclusion, not division. It shifts the conversation from conflict to collaboration. Respecting your adult child's choice of partner, even if you don't always agree, is one of the strongest ways to keep the door of communication open. Relationships thrive on trust, respect, and support. By avoiding this toxic phrase and replacing it with openness and understanding, parents can help strengthen, not sabotage, their bond with their child and their child's chosen family. Toxic phrase 3. In my day, we did things differently. At first glance, "in my day, we did things differently" may seem like a harmless reflection or a nostalgic trip down memory lane. But when used in conversations with adult children, this phrase can carry an unintended but powerful sting. Rather than inspiring curiosity or connection, it often sends the message that modern methods, values, or lifestyles are inferior to those of the past. This subtle judgment can quickly build a wall between generations, turning what could be a moment of sharing into a moment of defensiveness. It may feel like you're simply stating a fact, but to your adult child, it can come across as criticism or dismissal of their life choices, parenting style, or career path. The phrase also tends to establish a generational competition, one where the past is presented as superior and the present as misguided. That dynamic doesn't foster mutual respect or understanding. Instead, it positions the parent as someone who is unwilling to adapt, listen, or accept change. When adult children feel that their experiences or opinions are constantly being compared to outdated standards, they may begin to withdraw emotionally. Over time, this leads to fewer open conversations, less willingness to share personal struggles, and ultimately a weakening of the parent-child connection. Of course, it's completely natural to have differing views across generations. But the key is to approach these differences with curiosity rather than criticism. Instead of saying, "In my day, children respected their parents," try saying something like, "Parenting seems to have changed a lot since I raised you. I'm curious, what are the reasons behind some of these new approaches?" This invites dialogue rather than resistance. It shows a willingness to learn and understand instead of imposing the past onto the present. When parents express interest in the choices their children are making, whether it's how they raise their kids, manage their finances, or structure their work-life balance, they create space for trust and openness. Offering wisdom should feel like a gift, not a lecture. By swapping nostalgic comparisons for respectful questions, you shift from being a critic to becoming a valued confidant. And that shift can make all the difference in preserving a loving, lasting bond across generations. Toxic phrase 4. You never visit or call me. Few things sting more than feeling forgotten or overlooked by the people you love most, especially your adult children. It's completely human to feel lonely at times or to wish for more frequent contact. But when that longing turns into blame through phrases like, "You never visit," or "You never call me," it can unintentionally sabotage the very connection you're craving. These absolute statements may feel emotionally true in the moment, but they're rarely factually accurate, and they can put your children on the defensive, making them feel criticized or guilty even if they've been trying to stay in touch. Rather than inspiring more communication, this kind of language often leads to avoidance. The core issue with statements like, "You never," or "You always," is that they leave no room for nuance. Even if your child visited last month or called last week, the word "never" erases those efforts. It invalidates what they have done and suggests that nothing they do will ever be enough. Over time, this makes phone calls and visits feel like obligations instead of opportunities for genuine connection. Adult children, juggling demanding careers, their own families, and personal responsibilities, may begin to associate every interaction with a sense of failure or disappointment, leading them to pull away rather than come closer. There's a far more effective and compassionate way to express these emotions. Try saying, "I really treasure our time together, and I've been missing you lately. Do you think we could find a time to catch up this week?" This approach communicates the same desire for connection, but in a way that invites participation instead of assigning guilt. It acknowledges your feelings without blaming your child or suggesting they're neglectful. Framing the conversation around appreciation and honest emotion builds trust and makes your adult children feel valued, not judged. Changing how you express loneliness doesn't mean pretending you're not hurt. It means choosing words that open doors rather than shut them. Focus on what you want, not what's been lacking. Express gratitude for small interactions instead of dwelling on missed ones. These small shifts in language can have a powerful impact, creating a warmer, more welcoming dynamic, one where your children want to engage, not because they feel guilty, but because they genuinely enjoy being around you. Toxic phrase 5. You'll regret it when I'm gone. Using mortality as a means to get attention or affection from your adult children may seem like a desperate but understandable emotional reaction, especially when you're feeling disconnected or unappreciated. However, the phrase, "You'll regret it when I'm gone," is one of the most emotionally damaging things a parent can say. It introduces fear, guilt, and manipulation into the relationship, transforming what could be a loving bond into an emotionally charged minefield. This kind of language may temporarily provoke a reaction, but over time, it often backfires, creating emotional distance instead of closeness. Psychologists explain that when parents invoke their eventual death in this way, they are not just expressing sadness, they are placing a burden on their children's shoulders. Rather than inspiring deeper connection, these statements often lead to feelings of stress, resentment, and avoidance. Adult children may begin to dread conversations with their parent, fearing they'll be met not with warmth, but with emotionally charged warnings and guilt trips. These repeated interactions can create long-lasting psychological tension and a growing reluctance to engage at all. At its core, this phrase is usually rooted in a real fear of being forgotten, of becoming irrelevant, or of spending the final years of life alone. Those fears are valid and deserve compassion. But expressing them through emotional blackmail only drives loved ones further away. It's far more effective and healing to share those fears directly and vulnerably, without using guilt as a weapon. Instead of saying, "You'll regret it when I'm gone," try saying, "These family moments mean so much to me. I really hope we can spend more time together." This version expresses the same emotional need, but in a way that invites closeness, rather than forcing it. Remember, your children want to enjoy your presence, not carry the weight of your sadness. When you shift your communication from guilt to gratitude, from fear to openness, you'll find that your relationships naturally begin to heal and grow. The goal isn't to pressure your children into spending time with you out of obligation, but to create a connection so meaningful that they want to be with you. That kind of bond isn't built through fear, it's built through love, honesty, and respect. Toxic phrase 6. Why don't you ever listen to me? At first glance, the phrase, "Why don't you ever listen to me?" may seem like a harmless expression of frustration. But beneath its surface lies a deep implication that your adult child is consistently dismissive, inconsiderate, or even disrespectful. This phrase immediately places blame and puts your child on the defensive, creating a power struggle rather than an opportunity for understanding. It often suggests that your opinions or wisdom are being ignored, and while that may feel true at times, accusing them outright can shut down meaningful dialogue and trust. Communication experts note that this phrase turns a conversation into a criticism. Instead of inviting collaboration or connection, it implies that you expect compliance or obedience, much like when they were children. But your adult children are no longer under your authority. They're independent individuals with their own perspectives, values, and decisions. By suggesting they never listen, you deny the possibility that they've heard you but simply made a different choice. This lack of recognition can feel invalidating, especially for children trying to establish boundaries or autonomy. Rather than focusing on whether your child follows your advice, consider expressing your desire to be heard and valued. Try saying, "I'd really appreciate it if we could talk through this. Your opinion means a lot to me, and I'd also like to share mine." This kind of statement fosters mutual respect. It shows that you are open to dialogue, not dictating what should happen. The goal is to create a space where both of you feel heard. Even if your children don't follow your suggestions, you'll likely find they're more open to listening when they feel their choices are respected. And sometimes, just feeling heard is more important than having your advice taken. When you remove blame and offer curiosity and care, the quality of your conversations and your relationship can transform dramatically. Remember, being truly listened to begins with creating an atmosphere of safety and respect. Underscore. Toxic phrase 7. You're too sensitive. Telling your adult child, "You're too sensitive," might seem like a way to downplay an emotional reaction, but it's actually a form of emotional invalidation that can seriously damage trust and connection. This phrase essentially communicates, "Your feelings are wrong," or "You're overreacting," which can be incredibly hurtful, especially when a child is trying to express something vulnerable. When a parent dismisses emotional pain, even unintentionally, it sends a message that their perspective isn't welcome or valid. Emotional invalidation is one of the key reasons adult children pull away from their parents. Rather than feeling heard or understood, they feel judged, criticized, or misunderstood. "You're too sensitive" turns the focus away from what was said or done and places the blame entirely on the emotional response. This not only prevents resolution, but often intensifies emotional hurt. Over time, repeated invalidation can make your children hesitant to open up or share their thoughts with you at all. Instead of diminishing their feelings, try responding with empathy. Say something like, "I didn't realize that upset you. Help me understand how you're feeling." This doesn't mean you're admitting fault. It means you're showing care and a willingness to understand. When children feel that their emotions are taken seriously, they're more likely to stay engaged in the relationship. It's also worth reflecting on why a child's emotional reaction might be triggering for you. Are you feeling criticized, rejected, or confused? These are normal reactions, but expressing them by shutting down your child's feelings will only widen the gap between you. Consider pausing, breathing, and responding with curiosity rather than judgment. Ultimately, validating your child's emotions, even when you don't fully understand them, is a sign of love and emotional maturity. It creates a foundation for healing and deeper trust. When your children feel seen and heard, not labeled or criticized, they'll feel safer and more open in your relationship. And over time, that emotional safety becomes the bridge that keeps your connection strong and lasting. Why are these phrases dangerous? The danger of using toxic phrases like, "after everything I've done for you," or "you'll regret it when I'm gone," lies in their ability to subtly, yet powerfully, erode the foundation of family relationships. While these phrases may seem harmless or even justified in moments of frustration, they often trigger deeper emotional responses that cause lasting damage. At their core, these phrases manipulate emotions, whether through guilt, fear, or a sense of obligation, creating a toxic dynamic where love and respect are replaced by resentment, anxiety, and emotional distance. First and foremost, these phrases distort the balance of the parent-child relationship. Parents are expected to offer unconditional love, but when they use manipulative language, they place conditions on that love. Statements like, "after everything I've done for you," suggest that love and support were given with the expectation of return, turning natural parental care into a transactional arrangement. This can cause children to feel burdened, obligated, or even guilty, and over time, they may withdraw emotionally to protect themselves from further manipulation. Similarly, phrases like, "you'll regret it when I'm gone," introduce an element of fear and guilt into the relationship. Instead of fostering positive, loving connections, they use the specter of loss as a tool to provoke a reaction. This creates anxiety in the children, who may begin to feel trapped between honoring their parents' wishes out of fear of regret or guilt, rather than genuinely enjoying time spent together. It places the parents' emotional needs ahead of the child's autonomy and ability to make their own choices, which is not only unfair, but can lead to a breakdown in communication and trust. Moreover, many of these phrases have a long-term psychological impact. Research has shown that when individuals hear accusatory or emotionally manipulative language, their brains trigger a stress response, much like they would if they were facing a physical threat. This response creates a cycle of avoidance, where the person begins to limit interactions to reduce the emotional distress. Over time, this cycle can lead to estrangement or a permanent emotional withdrawal from the relationship. In essence, these phrases undermine the very foundation of healthy communication. Rather than fostering understanding, empathy, and mutual respect, they create an environment of pressure, fear, and resentment. Recognizing these patterns and consciously choosing healthier, more supportive language is the first step in reversing the damage and rebuilding the connection with your adult children. 3-step solution to improve communication. Improving communication within family relationships, especially with adult children, requires more than just awareness of toxic phrases. It involves a conscious effort to change long-standing habits and replace negative patterns with healthier alternatives. One effective approach, recommended by family therapists, is a simple 3-step strategy that can help break the cycle of harmful communication and foster a more positive, open relationship with your children. The first step in improving communication is self-awareness. Before speaking, take a moment to reflect on your emotional state. Are you feeling lonely, unappreciated, or perhaps frustrated? These emotions often trigger toxic phrases and knee-jerk reactions. By becoming more mindful of your feelings, you can identify the underlying needs that drive your words. For example, if you're feeling isolated, you might be tempted to say something like, "You never call me," which can sound accusatory. Instead, recognizing that you're feeling lonely can help you reframe your request in a more positive and less judgmental way. You could express, "I've been feeling a bit lonely lately. I'd love to catch up with you sometime soon." By doing this, you acknowledge your emotions without burdening your child with guilt or blame. The second step is pausing before speaking. It's easy to fall into old communication patterns, especially when you're upset. However, taking a brief pause allows you to collect your thoughts and choose your words more carefully. When you feel the urge to say something like, "You never listen to me," take a moment to breathe and consider what you actually want to communicate. Instead of criticizing, try to express your need for connection or understanding. For instance, say, "I really value your opinion, and I'd love to have a deeper conversation about this." This simple pause can transform a potentially confrontational moment into an opportunity for positive dialogue. The third and final step is to express your feelings and needs directly. Rather than relying on vague or manipulative phrases, be clear about what you need from the conversation. If you want to feel more connected, say so openly. For example, instead of using guilt to manipulate your child into spending more time with you, try saying, "I've missed our time together. I'd really love to find a way to make regular visits work." By directly expressing your feelings, you show vulnerability and invite a more honest and empathetic response. By practicing these 3 steps, self-awareness, pausing before speaking, and expressing your needs directly, you can begin to rebuild healthier, more meaningful communication with your adult children. Although it may feel awkward at first, with time, these habits will become second nature, strengthening the bonds that matter most. In conclusion, improving communication with your adult children isn't just about avoiding certain toxic phrases. It's about cultivating a deeper, more meaningful connection built on mutual respect and understanding. By recognizing the damage these harmful expressions can cause and replacing them with more positive, open dialogue, you're not only preserving your relationships, but strengthening them for the future. As we grow older, our relationships with our children can either become sources of comfort or sources of strain. It all depends on how we choose to communicate. It's never too late to make a change. The 3-step approach of increasing self-awareness, pausing before reacting, and expressing your feelings and needs directly can transform the dynamics in your family. It's not about being perfect. It's about being willing to evolve and adapt, especially when it comes to something as important as family. Remember, the language we use shapes the relationships we have, and small shifts in how we communicate can lead to profound changes in how we connect with our loved ones. I encourage you to start today. Pick one toxic phrase that you've recognized in your own conversations and try replacing it with a healthier alternative. Notice the change in the response you get from your adult children. With time, you'll start to see how much more open, loving, and rewarding your relationships can be. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more valuable insights on building stronger family relationships. We'll be diving deeper into topics like emotional connection, communication strategies, and practical ways to foster better family dynamics in future videos. Let us know in the comments what toxic phrases you've encountered in your own family conversations and how you plan to replace them. Share your thoughts and experiences with us, because together, we can build a supportive community that values connection over conflict. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more content that will help you nurture the relationships that matter most.